Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
A terrorist organization that seeks to overthrow the government dominated by Tutsi and to institute Hutu control again. Being of a considerable distance or length. A far trek. Being the animal or vehicle on the right or being on the right side of an animal or vehicle. The horse on the right is the far horse. Beyond a norm in opinion or actions. The far right. Located at a great distance in time or space or degree. We come from a far country. A terrorist organization that seeks to overthrow the government dominated by Tutsi and to institute Hutu control again. A terrorist organization that seeks to overthrow the government dominated by Tutsi and to institute Hutu control again. A terrorist organization that seeks to overthrow the government dominated by Tutsi and to institute Hutu control again. A terrorist organization that seeks to overthrow the government dominated by Tutsi and to institute Hutu control again. Good at remembering. Planning prudently for the future. Took a long view of the geopolitical issues. Desire strongly or persistently. Having or being more than normal or necessary. Long on brains. Holding securities or commodities in expectation of a rise in prices. Is long on coffee. Involving substantial risk. Long odds. Of relatively great height. A race of long gaunt men. Of speech sounds or syllables, of relatively long duration. The English vowel sounds in bait, beat, bite, boat, boot, are long. Primarily spatial sense. Of relatively great or greater than average spatial extension or extension as specified. A long road. Primarily temporal sense. Being or indicating a relatively great or greater than average duration or passage of time or a duration as specified. A long life. Make right or correct. Correct in opinion or judgment. Time proved him right. Intended for the right hand. A right-hand glove. The piece of ground in the outfield on the catcher's right. Informal, very. Used informally as an intensifier. A right fine day. Exactly. Socially right or correct. It isn't right to leave the party without saying goodbye. Southern regional intensive, very, to a great degree. They have a right nice place. Anything in accord with principles of justice. He feels he is in the right. In an accurate manner. He guessed right. Those who support political or social or economic conservatism. Those who believe that things are better left unchanged. In accord with accepted standards of usage or procedure. What's the right word for this? Precisely accurate. Free from error, especially conforming to fact or truth. The right answer. To a complete degree or to the full or entire extent, whole, is often used informally for wholly. She felt right at home. Make reparations or amends for. Right or wrongs done to the victims of the Holocaust. Appropriate for a condition or purpose or occasion or a person's character, needs. The right man for the job. Most suitable or right for a particular purpose. The right time to act. In the right manner, correctly, suitably. The hand that is on the right side of the body. He writes with his right hand but pitches with his left. In accordance with moral or social standards. That serves him right. An interjection expressing agreement. An abstract idea of that which is due to a person or governmental body by law or tradition or nature. Certain rights can never be granted to the government but must be kept in the hands of the people. A turn toward the side of the body that is on the south when the person is facing east. Take a right at the corner. Being or located on or directed toward the side of the body to the east when facing north. My right hand. Frequently plural, the interest possessed by law or custom in some intangible thing. Mineral rights. Having the axis perpendicular to the base. A right angle. In conformance with justice or law or morality. Do the right thing and confess. In or into a satisfactory condition. Things are right again now. Location near or direction toward the right side, i.e. the side to the south when a person or object faces east. He stood on the right. Of or belonging to the political or intellectual right. Of the side of cloth or clothing, facing or intended to face outward. The right side of the cloth showed the pattern. Put in or restore to an upright position. They righted the sailboat that had capsized. Regain an upright or proper position. The capsized boat righted again. Toward or on the right, also used figuratively. He looked right and left. Beyond reasonable limits. Immoderate laughter. Improper or even offensive. Out-of-the-way remarks. Exceptional, unusual, or remarkable. Out-of-the-way information. Dealt with, disposed of. Remote from populous or much-traveled regions. They found a quiet out-of-the-way resort. Improper or even offensive. Exceptional, unusual, or remarkable. Dealt with, disposed of. I'm so relieved that my midterm is out of the way. Remote from populous or much-traveled regions. Relatively far from a center or middle. Outlying settlements. Far apart in relevance or relationship or kinship. A remote relative. Separate or apart in time. The remote past or future. Located far away spatially. Remote stars. Inaccessible and sparsely populated. Very unlikely. A remote possibility. A device that can be used to control a machine or apparatus from a distance. He lost the remote for his TV. Separate or apart in time. Separated in relationship by a given degree of descent. A cousin once removed. Of the greatest possible degree or extent or intensity. Utmost contempt. The greatest possible degree. He tried his utmost. Highest in extent or degree. Comparatives of far, most remote in space or time or order. The utmost tip of the peninsula. Of the greatest possible degree or extent or intensity. In the uttermost distress. The greatest possible degree. Comparatives of far, most remote in space or time or order. The absence of heat. The coldness made our breath visible. The sensation produced by low temperatures. He shivered from the cold. Sexually unresponsive. Was cold to his advances. Without compunction or human feeling. In cold blood. A mild viral infection involving the nose and respiratory passages, but not the lungs. Will they never find a cure for the common cold? Lacking originality or spontaneity, no longer new. Color, giving no sensation of warmth. A cold bluish gray. Extended meanings, especially of psychological coldness, without human warmth or emotion. A cold unfriendly nod. Feeling or showing no enthusiasm. A cold audience. Having a low or inadequate temperature or feeling a sensation of coldness or having been made cold by e.g. ice or refrigeration. A cold climate. Having lost freshness through passage of time. A cold trail. Lacking the warmth of life. Cold in his grave. Marked by errorless familiarity. Had her lines cold before rehearsal started. Of a seeker, far from the object sought. So intense as to be almost uncontrollable. Cold fury gripped him. Unconscious from a blow or shock or intoxication. The boxer was out cold. Far apart in relevance or relationship or kinship. A distant cousin. Remote in manner. A distant smile. Separate or apart in time. Distant events. Located far away spatially. Distant lands. Separated in space or coming from or going to a distance. Distant villages. Very far away in space or time. Troops landing on far-off shores. Very far away in space or time. Faraway mountains. Far removed mentally. A faraway, or distant, look in her eyes. To or at a greater extent or degree or a more advanced stage, further, is used more often than farther, in this abstract sense. The application of the law was extended farther. More distant in especially degree. Farther from the truth. To or at a greater distance in time or space, farther, is used more frequently than further, in this physical sense. Farther north. More distant in especially space or time. They live in the farther house. Comparatives of far, most remote in space or time or order. Don't go beyond the farthermost, or furthermost, tree. To the greatest distance in space or time, farthest, is used more often than furthest, in this physical sense. See who could jump the farthest. To the greatest degree or extent or most advanced stage, furthest, is used more often than farthest, in this abstract sense. She goes farthest in helping us. Comparatives of far, most remote in space or time or order. Had traveled to the farthest frontier. To or at a greater extent or degree or a more advanced stage, further, is used more often than farther, in this abstract sense. Further complicated by uncertainty about the future. Promote the growth of. More distant in especially degree. Nothing could be further from the truth. To or at a greater distance in time or space, farther, is used more frequently than further, in this physical sense. Went only 3 miles further. Contribute to the progress or growth of. Comparatives of far, most remote in space or time or order. Don't go beyond the farthermost, or furthermost, tree. To the greatest distance in space or time, farthest, is used more often than furthest, in this physical sense. He swam the furthest. To the greatest degree or extent or most advanced stage, furthest, is used more often than farthest, in this abstract sense. Went the furthest of all the children in her education. Comparatives of far, most remote in space or time or order. Explored the furthest reaches of space. Not along the usual route. Remote from populous or much traveled regions. The calculated use of violence, or the threat of violence, against civilians in order to attain goals that are political or religious or ideological in nature. This is done through intimidation or coercion or instilling fear. The calculated use of violence, or the threat of violence, against civilians in order to attain goals that are political or religious or ideological in nature. This is done through intimidation or coercion or instilling fear. The calculated use of violence, or the threat of violence, against civilians in order to attain goals that are political or religious or ideological in nature. This is done through intimidation or coercion or instilling fear. A landlocked republic in Central Africa, formerly a German colony. A landlocked republic in Central Africa, formerly a German colony.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.